Hi, and welcome to our very first FemTech Friday series. We are so excited to launch this live series through the University of Miami's Miller School of Medicine. My name is Dr. Mairead Maloney. I am an associate professor in the Department of Informatics and Health Data Science. I'm also core faculty in the Frost Institute for Data Science and Computing. And we are so excited to be exploring groundbreaking research that will transform women's health. Today, we're going to dive into how virtual reality might revolutionize stress reduction for perinatal women of color. I am so honored to be joined by our inaugural guest, Dr. Judite Blanc. She is a research assistant professor and NIH Mathilda White Riley Early Investigator Award recipient. Her virtual reality based stress reduction research has the potential truly to transform women's lives. Dr. Blanc, welcome to FemTech Fridays. Thank you so much for being our inaugural guest. We're so thrilled to have you. Just to start us off, if you would, I'd love to hear a bit more about your personal journey and how it's inspired your focus on women's health research.
Good afternoon, Marie. Good afternoon to the Mill team and everybody, to the public. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's such an honor because, I was part of the beginning of that FemTech program at the University of Miami. So being able to now use the findings of my research to help you launch that series, it's definitely a huge honor. Okay, so now when it comes to my journey or my why, it's the fact that it's so, as a woman, what I remember is that when I was growing up in Haiti, and also when I was doing my undergraduate studies in psychology, my knowledge on women's health, what I feel is that it was limited to biological differences or the impact of biological differences on women's health or on the difference between health among men versus women. And then in 2012, I was hired as a research consultant by an international organization in Haiti to conduct a monograph on women's and girls' rights in Haiti. So because of that, I had to conduct a extensive literature review, and this opened my mind to what gender can do to women's health outcomes. So all of a sudden, I realized, okay, gender disparities in health started to make sense to me. Disparities in mood disorders, right? Disparities in gender-based violence, disparities in maternal health. And I also started to understand how patriarchy and socialization, as well as identity, social position, are powerful drivers of women's health. So yeah, ever since, my curiosity never stopped. It just grew. And also my commitment to not only understanding, but also advancing data, advocating for women's health, for funding for women's health research, just never stop. And here I am. When it comes to using digital solutions, also this is also connected to the fact that I became aware of, okay, mobile health can be a powerful solution, powerful, very effective tool for to address physical health, to address mental health, to address stress, overburden stress. Then I also started to understand that, okay, Black women, women of color, there's some kind of gap. As you know, I have also that background in digital solutions. We'll talk about that later, but this is also one of the reason behind the fact that now I'm leveraging digital solutions to advance women's health in the US, but also at the international level.
Incredible. That really helps explain the foundation of your research and your why. That's wonderful. So my next question is, around the focus of your work. So your work focuses on compound stressors among perinatal women of color. Can you help our audience understand what makes the stress experience unique for this population?
Yeah, so it's unique again, as you're gonna see how it's connected to to my journey, what brought me to that field. So I want people to picture this. When we talk about compound stress, we are referring to the fact that to a multi stress inducing factors. Sometimes they may overlap, sometimes they may interact, they may accumulate. And when they overlap, when they interact, they produce greater burden. Their effect multiplied. And what the public need to understand is that alone, those stressors, they don't act in isolation, right? So their compound effect have a greater burden on that person, on anybody who is going through, some tough time. Now, when it comes to public health, so picture this. For example, a woman living in poverty, that woman is living in poverty. That woman has also to cope with financial stress, because if you're living in poverty, definitely, when it comes to paying the bills, this is a huge huge stressor. But when you also have to deal with gender-based violence, with gender discrimination, so definitely at some point, just imagine, okay, you're dealing with this already, you are living in poverty. So when it comes, particularly if you're living in the US, you have, remember, we are living in through that myth of meritocracy, so you will have limited access to healthcare coverage. So just imagine all that, at that intersection, how much that women's health who is living in poverty could be impacted, and whatever health issues that woman is living, it may become worse. So as I have a background in psychology, and we are talking about stress. So from a psychological standpoint, we can also take an example of any individual. For example, that person may be going through job strain. Okay, so somebody lost their job, and then at the same time they are dealing with family conflict, but at the same time they're also dealing with discrimination. So that intersection, this compounded effect of stressors may put that individual at a greater risk to suffer from anxiety and depression. Now, when it comes to perinatal women of color, for example, I want people to imagine this. This category, what happened to them is that those two examples that I just gave you, your situation as a perinatal woman of color, either you're pregnant or in the postpartum period, it's similar, but the problem is it's becoming more complex. Why? Because not only you're dealing with all those, these identity issues that I mentioned in the beginning, but at the same time, you're navigating those stresses, but you're also doing it while you're doing emotional labor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you are also navigating socio-professional demands. So this is how I want people to understand perinatal women of color, and what makes them more vulnerable to compound stress.
Dr. Blanc, I think you did a beautiful job of illustrating the intersectional approach because we all have stress. If you don't, I heard a doctor once say, if you don't have stress, you're dead. So we all have stressors in our lives. But what you're really highlighting is the confluence of factors that in particular affect perinatal women of color, which is such an underserved population. So that's a great foundation for my next question. I've had the great pleasure of observing your work in action, of doing a demo of your VR, but I'd love for you to tell the audience, why is virtual reality in particular promising for stress reduction, and what makes VR different from other therapeutic approaches?
So this remind me of the first time I used virtual reality, because I was about to launch the Nurturing Mom. In fact, before joining Dr. Azizi Seychelles, who is the founding director of the Media and Innovation Lab, I had no experience using virtual reality, not at all, because there's that stigma on virtual reality or virtual reality users that, okay, it's not only it's for men, but it's for children, and also you may get become dependent on it. So that was my experience. And then so I did when Azizi, proposed that project to me to design that protocol, so I had to test it. And then, so what I remember is that when I tested that project, and when I tested particularly the meditation, I was just in awe. I was like, oh, how come I never tried such a technology? I wish I had used it before, because what happened, I was already a meditation somebody who wanted to meditate, and then I was using an app. So just to show you why VR is so promising. It's promising because I was that person who didn't know anything about virtual reality, who was struggling, for example, to use an app to keep a meditation practice just by using an app. And then the difference that I feel between the virtual reality, or not the difference, but I would say the promise, what makes it unique, is how we are able to use a computer modeling simulation to allow someone to interact with a visual or sensory environment. So that was me. Finally, we was like, all of a sudden, because I was on a VR, and that simulation, all my distraction were removed. So this is what the virtual reality is promising to us who are trying to meditate, us who, no matter like the kind of problem that you're dealing with, it could be pain, it could be a mental health related issues, you get to be in that simulated environment. You get to be removed from the outside world, the stress, the immediate environment, where you are transported in a new environment where you get to be just you and follow an instruction, right? And this experience, for example, somebody can, if you're testing a mental health related program, a virtual reality for mental health related program, so you get to some of those programs. Sometimes they have they give you access to modules, or most of the time when it comes to the settings, they allow you to do it in a beach setting, or maybe in a calming living room environment. So this experience, what it allows you is to, okay, you retain positive emotion, positive experience. It allows you to focus better, right? So that was my experience using it the first time. And also that this is what research is showing, why it is that promising, not only beyond all the cognitive effect, but is the fact that also some of us, particularly in people of color, we are dealing with, also not only we are dealing with greater intersectional stress, compound stress, but some of us, we are also dealing with stigmatization on mental health, or some of us, we have low access to healthcare insurance. So we are not saying by testing or by advocating for the use of virtual reality and mental health or in healthcare, we are not promoting the replacement of a therapist, for example. That's not what we are doing. We are seeing that, okay, this can be a powerful added value, added instrument to our self-care toolkit because of the on-demand nature of the program. Okay, so if you were dealing with transportation issues, now okay, you are gonna be you are home instead of being on Zoom or instead of being on the phone, you get to enter a simulated environment, a calming place, and you will retain the information positive experience better. So that's the characteristic of virtual reality that I tested for myself and that I'm testing in my research.
Incredible. Dr. Blanc, I really love hearing about the way that this is accessible. It reduces some of the stigma that folks might face. And it really is something that people can do on their own time, and they don't need to access transportation. They can do it in the comfort of their own home. What a powerful,
Absolutely.
powerful tool for mental health. So, speaking of this powerful tool, I'd love to hear more about what findings have emerged from your Nurturing Mom study regarding VR's effectiveness in reducing stress among perinatal women of color. And have there been any findings that have been surprising to you?
Okay, so maybe before I go to the findings, what I would like the team to do for us is to put on a short clip, a video of that summarize the virtual reality program that we leverage in our Nurturing Mom study. The program is called Nurture VR. Stacika, I can't click on it. Can you open the clip? So yeah, so we leverage the Nurture VR, which as you can see, it's the one of the first virtual reality program aimed to lower stress, anxiety, and fear for pregnant women that was created during the pandemic by a company called Behavior in partnership with a hospital called Hogue. Can you let me know when it's ready? Otherwise, I can also share that video myself.
Dr. Blanc, maybe,
Yeah, maybe let me share it myself then.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Bear with me. Nurture VR. So
Great.
by the way, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Excellent.
Okay, perfect. So that company, by the way, has been purchased. But if you Google Nurture VR, let me know if you can see.
Pregnancy is a transformative journey for women. It changes their bodies and impacts their
No,
emotions as they discover what they're capable of doing and who they're capable of becoming in this new chapter embracing motherhood.
Being a new mom is all sorts of emotional. I mean, like, have this baby that you love so much, plus, all of the hormone changes that come with postpartum.
Today, new technology is emerging to broaden a woman's perspective.
Being a new mom, I am more anxious than I thought that I would be. There are a lot of moments where I'm wondering, am I okay? Is my healing okay? Is my baby okay?
Hogue and Behavior have partnered to bring a one-of-a-kind experience to expectant mothers and new families.
It really takes you to the place, into the moment. So you hear it, you see it, all your senses are alert, and you're really immersed into the experience.
Developed with input from mothers, physicians, nurses, midwives, and wellness experts, Nurture VR is more than a technological breakthrough.
My first reaction after putting the goggles on was everything was so beautiful, and immediately almost just felt relaxed and calm.
It's a companion to help a mother and her partner master their well-being during her pregnancy and beyond. As she nurtures her well-being, her baby is nurtured too. Like the progress that came before it, Nurture VR won't just change how we care for women. It will change how women experience their individual journey to motherhood, how they process, manage, and thrive during some of the most demanding but beautiful transformations of their lives.
Being able to have all the different resources, all the experts, all in one place, and knowing that it's trusted, I don't have to leave my living room. It's pretty exciting.
Hoag and Behavior invite you to experience the latest evolution in maternal health with us. Visit hoag.org/VR for more information or call 949-764-7239 to schedule a demo.
Oh, thank you for that video. That was really, really cool to see. I so appreciate that. So now that we have a better idea of how the program actually works, I'd love to hear more about your findings. Unfortunately, I can't hear you.
Okay, yes, of course. So now, okay, that you know a little bit about the Nurture VR, so this is what we did for nurturing from Nurturing Mom. So I'm sure that with you have heard by now, you're following social media or in the research, how United States, when it comes to maternal health, is compared to a low and middle income country, right?
Right.
So exactly. So what's happening at the national level is that there is a maternal health crisis. And when you dig into the literature, what you find is that perinatal mental health issues are the drivers of not only pregnancy-related complication, child mortality, but also maternal mortality. For example, there was a review that came out in JAMA maybe 1 year ago or 2 years ago that found that between 15 to 20% of pregnant individuals, they arrive in that perinatal period with mood disorders, anxiety, and depression issues, right? Just imagine what this represents. And when it comes to race, ethnicity, unfortunately, they are not equal. Not everybody is affected equally by this maternal health and a maternal mortality crisis. For example, Black women and pregnant individuals from marginalized communities, they are hit the hardest. So this is in response to that the Media and Innovation Lab and through Azizit Seychelles, and who is my mentor, invited me to design the protocol of the Nurturing Mom. The goal was to provide pregnancy-related education to pregnant and postpartum Black and Latina women in South Florida, while also providing them with a program to lower their stress level. And so that's what we did in 2022, 2020, yes, 2022, right? And so we designed that project. The main goal was to test the feasibility and acceptability of virtual that Nurture VR program among perinatal women of color in South Florida. And while doing that, we were also interested in to explore their struggle as women, right, as mothers, but also what kind of tools they experienced with mental health, but also the kind of tools they were already using to manage stress or to manage mental health issues. And we also wanted to explore with them barriers and facilitators for virtual reality program implementation among them. So we did that. So I was personally the person who conducted the focus group with that, with about 16 participants from the nurturing mom. So we included who were included in that pilot project where women participant who not only complete those that completed the 5 weeks of the program, the intervention, but also those who just recently studied using the virtual reality program. And here, this is what came out of the, as you can see from, can you see the screen?
I
Can
can.
you see?
Mhm.
Okay, so I have the main findings summarized here in this conceptual framework. First of all, I want a big shout out to that dream team at the mill who work on that project with me. I know I would not I would not have been able to make this happen, to create that award-winning project without them. So big shout out. We found that the main it's very small. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we found that the main, when it comes to maternal stress, you have on top the fact that those women, they are burdened because they are managing caregive. They have to provide emotional labor. They have to care for their children. They have to care for a family, while at the same time navigating social responsibilities. So all those came on top of what consists barrier. What is a barrier to maternal well-being? Beside that, we also found that those women, they were living in fear because they were under so much pressure. They didn't want to appear weak, the strong. I found that too. They were complaining about the strong Black woman schema. Latinas also mentioned that you have to be strong for your child, and soak it up and keep going. Those were the kind of feedback I was getting. And yeah, I mentioned the pressure, or they were under pressure. They didn't want to appear vulnerable. And they complain a lot about the lack of social support from family, lack of social support from also the workplace, how much it was a lot for them to, after one month, 2 months of giving birth, having to go back to work, right? They were anxious. Like, I remember one of them mentioned how she said, in fact, when I got my baby, everything was fine because I was home with my husband, I had my family helping, but all of a sudden I started to lose sleep when I had to go back to work, right? And then also they complain about socioeconomic hardship. Some of them didn't. They know they were struggling with traumatic stress. They know they needed it, but they didn't have proper health coverage, right?
Right.
So when it comes to solutions they were already using for stress management, they mentioned they would take a break, they would, they also mentioned, I have to acknowledge that in many occasions they know they would not have been able to do all that, managing caregiving responsibilities and then having a full-time job, if there was no husband at home or there was no grandparent helping out.
Wow.
And so this is where our virtual reality program became an added a value, a value added to their toolkit, to whatever they were already using to manage stress. So again, this is, I also want people to be mindful of the fact that this is not the quantitative results of the study. We are still processing the quantitative result of the clinical trial. This is a qualitative finding where it's basically semi-structured interviews that I conducted with the women, and this is what came out of it. And other I would say other main finding that I think that's worth mentioning. It's the sense of escapism. Remember when I mentioned in the beginning how when you're using the VR, you're removed from your immediate environment. All of a sudden, you're carried into a new world. So they felt it too, right? And but my paper, the paper that came out of that qualitative finding, is titled "After I Repeated one of the participant described her feeling." She said, "When I'm using it, I felt like I'm lifted above the world." Right?
Yeah.
And yes, it's the title of the paper. And they appreciated the fact that you can do it anytime. For
Mhm.
busy mom, that's exactly what you need, right? You're all taking care of babies. You have the pregnant. I remember it was a pregnant mom who said that, or you can do it anytime. You don't need a specific schedule for that. That's important. And but they also had they were also appreciative of the fact that they were able to learn about breastfeeding, because that program does have some modules about breastfeeding, how to bond with your baby. So they were appreciative of that. They did retain and learn great great things to take care of their babies. And and all in all, I would say that it's definitely promising. That's what I retain from my experience working on that project. Very promising because of the on demand, those women, they are busy people, and this is exactly what they need. Something they can do remote, and something they can that can be also covered. I'm receiving some feedback. It seems like some health insurance may cover some kind of mental health treatment that is virtual reality based. I'm not sure, but this is where we would like to go. We would like this kind of tool to go. It's not just for fun, because it's very expensive. So we also need policy makers and the companies to also play their part, because we do have promising results showing that it can be an interesting and an effective tool as in our self-care and and perinatal women's mental health toolkit.
Gosh, I am just so impressed by your preliminary data. It's really encouraging to hear what the women are sharing with you. I also love that you talked about next steps and the ways in which we can hopefully expand the reach of this intervention. And in particular, if health insurance companies were willing and able to cover these kinds of care, it would be super cost effective, accessible, and importantly, really positively impact the mental health of this high risk group. Perinatal women of color, as you accurately talked about, have some of the worst, unfortunately, mental and physical health outcomes. And it's really critically vital that we incorporate more support for this community. And I just love your creation and I love the work that you're doing. It's so important and impressive. We are unfortunately out of time, but I did want to just highlight one question from the audience before we go. And I want to highlight and give a preview of next time. But if you could just, Lauren asked, how are you addressing access to VR for this population?
This is a very important question, and that's exactly, you see, that's why I brought that up, because based on my experience and based on the findings I'm getting from now, I have basically, I've been uh, principal investigator on two virtual reality project,
Mhm.
there is definitely a concern when it comes to access. Why? Because unfortunately, a headset or now we have Meta, and this the cost range from 399 to $500, right? So this is a concern, and this is exactly why I believe if we really want those that are the most vulnerable that can benefit from virtual reality based digital solutions, we need to bring the policymakers, whoever those people who are in charge of the healthcare system, who are managing healthcare coverage, they need to step in and also align with the findings, what we are finding from the research, the same way more and more some we are using the way, for example, what would be the best example? We have been using technology in healthcare for a while now. The same way there are some technical tools that are reimbursed by the insurance. My recommendation would be also, if somebody with a diagnosis, for example, as long as they can provide that, they can show that they are in need of that virtual reality based intervention. I believe the insurance should cover that for them, right? But at the same time, what I've been thinking about lately is, okay, while waiting for the healthcare system or the policymakers to go on board with us, I do believe that healthcare providers, they can do their part. If if it's gonna take time to get those tools to become an everyday tools at the hand of the regular patient, so why not us doing our part? For example, more and more the hospital and more and we have tons more and more. Also we have more virtual reality program being developed for the healthcare system, at the psychologist practice, the therapist practice, or the pediatrician. Perhaps it's time for them to bring that to their clinic, right? To ensure that, okay, if my patient cannot be reimbursed for a virtual reality program, how about I ensure that I give access to those evidence-based program in my clinic, at my practice.
Yeah. I love that you have these really concrete ideas that are very, reasonable to implement. And I think this gives us all a lot to think about as we move forward. Dr. Blanc, thank you so much for being our first guest on FemTech Friday. You and your work perfectly embody the intersections of equity, innovation, and technology, which is exactly what we want to highlight here at the Use FemTech Friday. Special shout out to the Media and Innovation Lab. We are so grateful to be a part of the mill, as we call them. Huge shout out to Stasika, Alex, and Dunya. You are incredible. And we're just so grateful for the help that you gave us in putting this together today. I want to let our audience know that on Friday, the 17th of October, we'll continue the conversation, and we'll be featuring Mitch Rosen of EvoFem Biosciences. He'll share his work on Phexxi, which is an FDA-approved hormone-free contraception, and we're so excited to learn from him as well. Thank you so much. Follow us at the Media and Innovation Lab, visit our website, and we're so grateful to everyone who joined us for this historic first episode, and particularly Dr. Blanc. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your work. We really appreciate you, and I hope everyone has a beautiful Friday.